Hello and welcome to another edition of Wellbeing on Spectrum Television. Wellbeing is an interactive program designed to encourage a healthy living. I am Mary Joseph. Please do well to follow us on all our social media platforms at Spectrum TV, or you could visit our website at spectrumtv.ng. Today on the show, we would be talking about mental health, as the month of May is celebrated all round as the World Mental Health Awareness Month. According to the World Health Organization, it defines mental health as the state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities and can cope with the normal stresses of life and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. It's further to say that mental health plays a crucial role in our health and well-being, but yet mental health is still being neglected in some. In Nigeria, the burden for mental health disorder is very high, with limited access to available and affordable mental health services in the country. Statistics from the Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria reveal that no fewer than 60 million Nigerians are suffering from mental illness, as many Nigerians today, especially the youths, suffer from one or two mental health issues that are either being mistaken as clout or termed spiritual problems. The most common of them all are depression and anxiety. A lot of youth these days suffer from mental health issues that they do not even talk about because they fear they might be stigmatized. This happens often to many, especially with some African parents that have little or no understanding of mental health issues. Coming down to our healthcare sector, the disparity between available healthcare services and the need for mental health services, also in terms of policy and also funding, is palpable. Well, this and many more would be the crux of our discussion on today's episode of Wellbeing, as I have two guests who would be addressing some of the issues much later during the course of the show. But before then, let us quickly take this short breather. We'll be right back.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian, from issues on politics,
hello Nigeria, I remain committed.
Security, education, health, lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyeken every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyeken every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Good health, they say, is something you can't buy. But the decision to live healthy is a choice that you have to make. Join health practitioners from diverse health fields as they provide you with vital information to help your day-to-day health decisions on Wellbeing, your wellness talk show. Wellbeing airs every Monday, 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Spectrum TV.
You're welcome back to the show. It's still the program Wellbeing, your wellness talk show that is designed to keep you health conscious. Do remember to follow us on all our social media handles at Spectrum TV, or you could visit our website at spectrumtv.ng to be a part of the family. Today on the show, our focus is on mental health as we join hands with the rest of the world to commemorate this year's World Mental Health Awareness Month. My guest is Mr. Emmanuel Obdi Dumale, the team lead Center for Behavioral Change and Public Enlightenment. And I also have here with me Mrs. Kendra Kpi, the manager Mental Health Project, Center for Behavioral Change and Public Enlightenment. It's good to have you join me on the show this beautiful evening.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Kendra, how are you doing? How is Port Harcourt?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's get into the conversation. So I'll start with Mrs. Kendra this evening. When we talk about mental health, how can you define mental health?
Okay. Thank you once again, Mary. I'm really delighted to be on your show. When you say mental health, just like we have physical health, it means wellness of the mind.
Privilege and an opportunity to be here on the show. Mental health is one important area of our health because if you look at the definition of health itself, the definition of health comprises of mental, physical, and social well-being. Now, if you look at Nigeria today, just like you said during the welcome message, over 1 in 4 Nigerians is said to have various forms of mental illnesses. 1 in 4 Nigerians. So if you calculate it by our population, you find out that between 50 to 60 million Nigerians as of today is suffering from one form of mental illness or the other. Now in Nigeria, we are ranked 15 in the world on the rate of suicide, on the rate of countries with the highest suicide. So that is the statistics. And the part that is so appalling is the fact that our mental health facility can only cater for about 90% of these 60 million people who are suffering from mental illness.
Okay, so still with you, Mr. Emmanuel, according to the Association of Psychiatrists here in Nigeria, they said that anxiety and depression are like two major mental illnesses that affect youth here in Nigeria. Please, can you take a broader look on the issue of anxiety and depression?
Yes, when you look at depression, if you look at the economic situation in Nigeria today, if you look at some of the issues that we are going through as a country, from the high rate of inflation to the issue of drug abuse amongst the young people, you find out that depression, it is not a surprise that Nigerians are depressed. And according to the World Health Organization, about 3.9% of Nigerians are currently depressed. They are having a form of depression. That is about 7 million people in Nigeria suffer from depression on an annual basis. So this is as a result of the economic situation, some family issues, relationship issues, and ultimately amongst young people, the rate of drug abuse in Nigeria is on the rise, and lack of policy on the part of the government is making this to be unchecked. No policy, low budgetary allocation for mental health. So depression is a case in Nigeria. 7 million Nigerians are currently said to be depressed.
Okay, over to you, Mrs. Kendra.
And before I go into that, I'd like to say that when we talk about mental health, it does not mean that a person is mad. It doesn't mean madness at all, because when people hear mental health, they assume that somebody has gone crazy. Now, there are a lot of pointers to help detect if a person has mental health disorder or issues. When a person is eating too much or too little, when a person is sleeping too much or too little, when a person has little or no energy, when a person is feeling hopeless, helpless, these are issues that should call for concern. When a person is withdrawing from friends, sometimes we have friends and all of a sudden we don't see them anymore. They don't want to hang out with us. Sometimes it's not because they are feeling too bad or something. It's because at some point they are getting overwhelmed by life. And then we have people who use drugs. When people are using drugs and then become addicted and start to abuse those drugs, when a person yells, fights, bullying is actually a sign of a mental health issue. I know a lot of us don't know about that. When you see people who bully, children who bully, adults who bully, these are pointers to mental health issues. And then a person who has severe mood swings, there are a whole lot. A person who bullies cannot be said to have mental health issues if that is the only thing the person does. There are a lot of underlying factors that come together to make it proper for you to say this person has mental health issues.
Okay, so can you tell us what are some of the underlying factors?
A person could be depressed and does not have the necessary help to come out of it. It leads to a mental health disorder over time. Depression of 3 months is very easy for people to come out of. Depression of 6 months is very easy for people to come out from. When it is close to a year and over, I mean, there's severe problem.
Okay. So
and then we have anxiety. As little as it sounds, it can actually result to severe mental health issues.
Okay. So still on mental health issues, Mr. Emmanuel, can you tell us the type of mental illnesses that are actually here in our society? Because the month of May, we've seen World Dementia Day, World Schizophrenia Day. There's anxiety, there's depression. Please, can you tell us the different types of mental illnesses that are here in our society?
We have personality disorders. We have bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder has to do with extreme sadness and extreme happiness. The person is in between the two moods, so it's called bipolar disorder. You also have what we call schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a form of psychosis that has to do with delusion and hallucination. This person comes to a point where the person is hearing voices and seeing things that you ordinarily you are not seeing, and the person could even be responding to those voices, to those things that the person is seeing. For example, you could hear the person say, "Do you want to kill me? Do you want to kill me?" And when you look around that person, you are not seeing anybody interacting with the person. You know, they suspect the next person. So that's schizophrenia. Then you also have, like you have said, anxiety disorder. They are limited to some of the mental health challenges that we are familiar with. But like Mrs. Claire has said earlier, these challenges, they are not madness the way we look at them. And one of the greatest problems we have in Nigeria is the fact that people who are having mental illnesses are seen like, oh, something from their village, from the point of traditional belief, and we must move away from that. But the common anxiety disorder, depressive disorders, and many others.
Yes, that leads me to the next question. You know, there are a lot of stigma around mental illnesses and the need to even get help, because there are some persons who will come out to social media and say that I've been depressed or I am depressed, but the need for people to actually support them, to reach out to them, for them to be rehabilitated is like, it's something that we need to encourage. So how can this be tackled, the stigma surrounding mental illnesses here in our society?
I think Nigeria is still in the society that is called we are the theological age. The theological age, according to one sociologist, is that age where people attribute their problems, their challenges, their sicknesses, their illnesses to spirits. They want to explain it from the terms of mental illnesses are meant to be managed by professionals. And we have professionals like the psychiatrists, we have professionals like the psychologists. They are the professionals to manage mental illnesses. And people who are experiencing any of these mental illnesses, be it post-traumatic stress disorder or schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, just as we have said earlier, they are expected to consult these professionals. However, like I said earlier, it is very, very important to state that Nigeria as a country has not given attention to mental illnesses, mental health. The budgetary allocation for mental health is poor. The facilities for mental health is poor. The personnel falls below the World Health Organization ratio, recommended ratio for professional to patient care, which is about 1 professional to 3 patients. So this is something that we are battling with. 60 million Nigerians having mental illnesses. The mental health facilities we have just about can care for about 10%. And these facilities are in the urban area. So assuming people are having mental illnesses in the rural areas, how do they access care? It is difficult for them to access care. And you know that in Nigeria today, 60% of Nigerians are dwelling in the rural communities. So when you talk about the challenges surrounding mental health care, you also will see that the issue around it is not surprising, but they attribute it to spirit. So we have to bridge the knowledge gap by educating people, by creating awareness, by encouraging people to seek professional help. But the government must be up and doing to take this matter as an important concept, just like other health issues are taken.
All right. Before we head straight to the government, the role of government in the fight against mental health illnesses. Now, let's come to the family setting and also the society at large. How can this be managed, the issue of mental health? What can we do in terms of management and also care for persons who are actually going through mental health challenges?
Yeah, this is where each and every one of us are needed. We are in a society where sometimes we tend to mind our own business. But from a family setting, we have to build and create loving relationships with one another. You as an individual, if you are going through a downtime in your life, downtime is normal for me, but it is not normal to keep your downtime to yourself, or during your downtime, you decide to isolate yourself from your family members, from your friends, from the society. Because if we can encourage one another, especially when we are going through the issues of life, because when you talk about mental health, you are talking about logical well-being. And if you are defining it from the point of the World Health Organization, you are looking at a state of an individual's well-being that has to do with how that person functions to help his community, how the person functions to learn, how the person functions at work, and how the person relates with other individuals. So we cannot have a less mental ill society if we are not relating with one another. From the family perspective, from the church perspective, from the society perspective, we have to be the next person around you what you are going through. And let that person also be able to provide help when that individual has been able to explain to you what he or she is going through. By so doing, we'll help one another and we will build a bond that will reduce mental illness from the family perspective and society. That is what I can say.
All right. So the mental health awareness campaign that is organized by the Center for Behavioral Change and Enlightenment, what does it really seek to achieve?
Yeah, the Center for Behavioral Change and Public Enlightenment is an organization that has been able to see the knowledge gap in this area. We have seen that in Nigeria, the awareness is required for mental health and mental illnesses to be tackled and for mental health to be improved. So as a matter of fact, what we are doing and trying to achieve is one, to create awareness amongst individuals in the society in Nigeria on mental health and mental illnesses. And to also let people know that if you see someone who is depressed, it doesn't mean that the person is interacting with spirits. Just know that it is as normal as the person having headache or a stomach pain and all that. Now, on the other hand, Center for Behavioral Change is also trying to draw the attention of the government of Nigeria to the issue of mental health, because currently the budgetary allocation, the funding, the policy, if the budgetary allocation is not improved, mental health cannot be improved. If personnel are not encouraged to be trained as either psychiatrists or psychologists, mental health cannot be improved. So we are trying to bridge this gap by providing knowledge, awareness, advocacy on the issue of mental health.
Okay, so how have you been able to actually propagate these messages to every nook and cranny of your society? Because some persons still believe that mental health management and care is actually very, very costly. Have you been able to tell people, to preach this message to people, that it is very, very important that they seek mental health care?
The current facilities in Nigeria concerning mental health care can only cater for just about 10% of the people having these mental illnesses. 60 million Nigerians are currently suffering from various forms of mental illnesses. So even when we educate people at the very rural communities, another thing is to get them a facility where they can go to report their mental illness, which is currently 10% available. So it is actually difficult. So like I have said, we are doing our part to create the awareness, both at the community level, to ensure we do our advocacy to make sure the government do their own part to see how facilities can be improved. We are doing this through social media platforms. We do campaigns on social media platforms to educate people. And like you asked the question earlier, we can help ourselves. We can reduce mental illnesses from the family perspective by, in the first instance, prevent mental illness from even starting. Then we will seek less facilities to take care of it now that the facilities are not available. So first, from the family perspective, we encourage people to share their challenges and help one another.
All right, so moving forward to individuals to actually stay mentally healthy. How can one stay mentally healthy?
Yeah, one of the ways to stay mentally healthy, like I have said, if you are having a mental illness or you observe a challenge around your health, your psychological and emotional well-being, the first thing is you need to tell the next person that is around you. You need to seek that loving, caring relationship with others. Don't be isolated. And again, one of the major challenges and causes of mental health problems in Nigeria is the issue of drug abuse. So at this point, I will also say that to reduce mental illness, there should be reduction in the consumption of alcohol, in the consumption of things like cannabis, because cannabis has been found to be responsible for things like schizophrenia, psychosis, and making young people to have some of these mental health challenges. People have to reduce the rate at which they engage in drug use and abuse. Is one of those challenges. Then, like I have said earlier, if there is need, the person must seek professional attention. If the person is having access to any facility. Because I remember some time ago, while growing up, I had a friend who manifested a sign of a mental illness, and immediately we helped him. We held him, and he recovered himself. And he went through the issue of counseling and became better. So these are some of the things that people can do to seek professional help where it is available, to help one another. These are some of the things that, and people also have to be engaged in bodily exercise, sleep well. There is this recommended for sleep for an adult, which is 8 hours daily. Someone should be able to sleep well, no matter the engagement. Find time to rest well, to sleep well. It will reduce mental health challenges.
All right, so with regards to the provided by family members,
currently we have some health facilities, mental health facilities around us. Here in Port Harcourt, we have the neuropsychiatric hospital. I also know in Uyo, there is a facility that is run by CRISA, and I think there is also one in Calabar. In major cities, there are mental health facilities, and some of these mental health facilities the wards are empty because people believe that when they are taken to those places, they are seen to be mad people. This is one thing we are trying to educate people on to stop. So what we recommend is, if there is anybody that is feeling or looking mentally unstable, let the person be taken to any of these psychiatric centers. The person is normal. The person is just suffering from some emotional and psychological problems.
Okay. So finally, how important is it for people to actually be mentally healthy?
Mental health is important because if someone is healthy, the person must have a complete physical, mental, and emotional well-being, and not necessarily the absence of an infirmity or disease. So mental health is important because your health is not complete without your mental health.
Right.
For you to be healthy, it must be a combination, a composition of mental, physical, and social well-being. So mental health is very important. And when people are mentally stable, it leads to better productivity for them as individuals. They can meet up with their work responsibilities. They can meet up with their school responsibility, nuisance to society. They become a problem to their families because drug use disorders is also one of those mental health challenges we have. They become, when people are abusing drugs, you find out that from the family perspective, they are going to steal their parents' money. They will sell property in order to meet up with the doses of cocaine or whatever drugs they are taking. Sometimes they will go into robbery. Maybe we are passing on the road. Some of the people who are robbing on the Nigerian roads are people who are having mental instability, people who are having mental illness. Because if they were not having mental illness, they may not be able to have the morale to kill their fellow human being and rob them of their goods and properties. So you find out that we will have a better society if every one of us have a better mental health, productive. Even the GDP will be on the rise because each and every one of us will be contributing to making the GDP to be on the high.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Obdi Emmanuel Dumale, for being a part of the conversation today.
Thank you, Mary Joseph, for the opportunity, and for Spectrum Television. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And for all those listening to us, we just hope that you will take your mental health seriously the way you take your physical health seriously.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you, Mrs. Kendra Bay. You couldn't stay with us for so long. I want to say a very big thank you. Mr. Opti Project Center for Behavioral Change and Public enlightenment. And together we were talking about mental health and how we can safeguard it, laying emphasis on the urgent need for concerted efforts between the government, policymakers and international organizations to implement the recommendations provided herein for a better accessible and affordable mental health services for the mental well-being of the populace in promoting mental health care and services in Nigeria. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Remember that you could also be a part of the family of well-being. My name is Mary Joseph. Do enjoy the rest of your day.